Growing up, I was taught that the only career worth pursuing was a career in medicine, to be a doctor. That might not surprise you, given all the stereotypes around South Asian immigrants, which I am one. But my parents actually immigrated here in the 80s. And my dad was accepted into a PhD program at the University of Missouri, where he studied under a Nobel Prize nominee. And at first, like most immigrants, they really struggled to find the resources to navigate American life. And a few postdocs later, my brother and I were born, and we were raised in a fairly traditional Southern California family. Be a doctor was the mantra that we were raised under my entire childhood. Now, clearly, spoiler, I am not a physician. Neither is my brother. I've launched Altitude Lab, which internally we love to call a startup building startups, and my brother is a digital health entrepreneur. My dad, later in his career, went on to be a founder of his own company as well. So what causes that shift from a traditional view of career and success to entrepreneurship? I think the real answer and the secret sauce is community. In 2000, my family moved to Silicon Valley, where I came back to after I finished my undergraduate. I spent the next 10 years working in biotech and working in startup environments. That meant thousands of micro-engagements and connections with entrepreneurs, and just that scratch of entrepreneurship that you can't seem to shake. All of those connections really resulted in a community that supported entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial success. And it's what made that leap easier to make for me and my brother. Life science entrepreneurs and entrepreneurships ask the same thing of our founders. Life science founders are innovating a future that we've never imagined before, while also learning a language of business operations and cultures and systems of venture capital. These are the things that immigrants have so much in common with the founder journey. We're all trying to learn language, skills, and a new environment together. Our founders need a community, much like our immigrants do, of thought partners, mentors, and peers to navigate those lows and camaraderie to celebrate those highs. At Altitude Lab, we really think the competitive advantage for entrepreneurs is community, and it's really the core ingredient we use to nurture entrepreneurship for our founders. So what is community? It's one of those squishy words, right, that we like to talk about. So it might be industry groups like BioHive, and it might be friends and family groups that you might immediately think of. For me, growing up, it was a group of South Asian women that now we're all learning how to raise multicultural families. It could be hobbies. Like, for me, I was obsessed with goth rock. And yes, you can imagine me as a total punkhead going to Nine Inch Nails concerts. That was me growing up. And what I found in college was the camaraderie with a group of friends, and we launched a music magazine called The Cut, and that was actually, it's still in production today at Carnegie Mellon, and a real point of pride. But we built a community together of music writers, critics, photographers, musicians, and artists. What these communities have in common are a few core traits. Trust, that everyone's rowing in the same direction and supportive of one another. Personal and frequent connection. The idea that these are human interactions and you can build a rapport with one another to build together. And the last, an ease of information exchange, that when you have a core problem, you can reach out and get a fairly immediate answer. These make community relationships durable and sticky. It's what causes communities to have longevity and have value. In Silicon Valley, there's a lot of enthusiasm for what is called digital communities, and the opportunity those communities have to break information silos. But every immigrant will tell you that there's a difference between having a WhatsApp thread with 100 distant relatives all chiming in at all times of day to having a neighborhood of friends within a 20-minute drive. It's what makes the difference in that connection that builds value. Digital communities and forums are great for tips and tricks and even building concrete skills. But for our founders who are building complex solutions, deep technologies, sophisticated teams for an even more complicated healthcare system, a digital forum really isn't sufficient. And that's where communities really come in. We think that having a local emphasis is still necessary for our founders to build and create together. A strong entrepreneurial community provides a moat to the ecosystem that all of us are building here at BioHive. And it's what we've all invested in. Our healthcare innovators, our healthcare innovation ecosystem is made of everything from research universities, hospital networks, and transit systems, and so much more, including the government agencies and city and state politicians that really support us. But what government and agencies love to talk about is this ecosystem and the idea that by creating this infrastructure, we can stimulate economic success. The reality is that many geographies can, given enough time and political will, could build similar ecosystems. What's much harder to replicate is a vibrant community that helps founders navigate and access that ecosystem. We have that opportunity in Utah today. Together, we can merge our collective experiences into a cohesive community. By doing so, we will propel our founders and organically build the pipeline of future innovators and talent. Many of you have probably tried to recruit out-of-state talent, only to be turned down by a candidate that couldn't understand, if the job didn't work out in a couple years, how they could build a second career here in Utah. By supporting our entrepreneurs, we will create a hive of innovative companies and innovative entrepreneurs. That attracts talent, but also retains human capital in the region. This would benefit every biotech in Utah. We have the infrastructure. It's time for us to band together and build the community that supports that innovative group of entrepreneurs. At Altitude Lab, we are taking the steps to build this entrepreneurial community. We have a lot more to do, but this is where we've started. First is our mission. Right at the beginning, we emphasized a support of underestimated founders to break the gender and racial barriers at the beginning. By doing so, we break the information silos that limit these groups from participating in entrepreneurship. 80% of our companies are led by minorities and women. They exemplify that entrepreneurs can come from any background. Structure. Right at the start, we decided against private offices at Altitude Lab. Our program is completely co-working. For 24 months, our co-founders experienced a cohort effect, and with simple acts like eating lunch together, working out together, and asking each other for scientific help, they feel like they have a community of coworkers that they can draw from. Third is bridging communities. We bring in a constant flow of CXOs and experts to share their tribal knowledge on building a biotech. We also created a coalition of investors from all over the country to mentor our teams 40 days a year, so our founders have a pulse on national capital markets. And the last, and what I'm really looking forward to doing next year, is sending the elevator back down. Early next year, we will pilot ways to support pre-incorporation founders and help them make that leap into entrepreneurship, just like my family was able to do. We're also establishing a CEO peer group that will help our burgeoning leaders today find their footing early in their CEO career. When I was growing up, my parents harassed all of their friends and families to make sure that we had every opportunity to succeed and grow into great careers. Just like them, this is what keeps me up at night now with my founders at Altitude. How to harness all the knowledge that you have to build this next great generation of entrepreneurs in Utah. While we love to romanticize the infamous and renegade stories of entrepreneurs as if they came out of nowhere with no guidance of support, the truth is that our founders and their success is really shaped by the people that they connect with. So if you've built teams, technologies, and companies, if you have deep expertise on navigating clinical trials or negotiating partnerships, if you want to make sure that no founder repeats that last critical mistake you made during your fundraise, you have to join us. Because here, we rise together. Thank you.